Good afternoon. Wide World of Sports is in the little republic of San Marcos, where we're going to bring you a live, on-the-spot assassination. They're going to kill the president of this lovely Latin American country and replace him with a military dictatorship. And everybody is about as excited and tense as can be. The weather on this Sunday afternoon is perfect, and if you've just joined us, we've seen a series of colorful riots that started with the traditional bombing of the American embassy, a ritual as old as the city itself. Following that, the leader of the labor union, Julio Diaz, was dragged from his home and beaten by an angry mob. It was one of the most exciting spectacles I've ever seen. We'll probably have a videotape replay of that later on. All around, there are colorful flags and hats. And now the moment we've been waiting for is here. Everyone is getting quiet. The president is going to leave his office and walk down the steps of the palace. For that, we're going down on the playing area. Take it away, Howard.
This is tremendous, Don, just tremendous. The atmosphere heavy, uncertain, overtones of ugliness. A reminder in a way of how it was in March of 1964 at Miami Beach, when Clay met Liston for the first time and nobody was certain how it would turn out. The crowd is tense. They've been here since 10 this morning. And I think I see the door beginning to open. El Presidente may be coming out. The door opens. It's he. It's El Presidente. Waving at the crowd. As soon as the flag rings out, he turns. He runs back toward the building. This crowd is going on. He's blocked the crossfire of bullets. And down. It's over. It's all over for El Presidente. This reporter is going to get to him, if he can, through this mob for one last word before he expires. As you can see, this crowd is not to be trifled with. They're in a frenzy. They're trying to get over to El Presidente, even as I am trying to do now. Would you people let me through? This is American television. American television, please. Let me through. We're getting through now. Here we are. Here we are. Sir, you've been shot. When did you know it was all over?
Fascist. Dictator.
Well, of course you're upset, and that's understandable under the circumstances. I guess now you'll have to announce your retirement. Well, good luck to you, sir. Good luck to you. And now, if you folks will bear with me for a moment, I'm going to try and get in a word with the new dictator of San Marcos. That's assuming I can get through this noisy and demonstrative crowd. I wonder if you people would let me through. I see the general off in the distance, the new dictator talking to one of his men. Excuse me, sir. General, congratulations, General Emilio Molina Vargas. And General, a word from you, if you will, sir, for our viewers.
For many years, I have waited for this day, but now I am the state.
Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Well, you've heard it with your own eyes. Now we're going to have to see what the future brings. Right now, from the little dictatorship of San Marcos in Latin America, let's go back to Jim McLean in our studios in New York.
Hi, and welcome to Ward 13 Goes to the Movies. As I told my sister today, we're doing the movies, and she said again. And she said, is Eric Pilcher a regular now on your show? Are you, Eric?
I mean, I would be honored to be a regular on Ward 13, certainly.
Well, we're not always Ward 13. We just started lately.
Okay,
and we have Miriam Banish. I got your name right. Yeah, you can look at the camera because when you're looking like this, it looks,
looks bizarre.
Right. It should be our great Brendan wanted to make a nice desk that made everybody look great, but there's a lot of personalities that have public access TV show, folks. And if we cut Joe Kelly Lavasser and Will Infantine out and Bob Backus, we don't have a decent paycheck amongst us. Yeah. Well, let's just get to the small talk first. Miriam, how are you preparing for Thanksgiving?
Not doing very much. We bought some turkey. I bought some turkey breasts because we're not going to have enough people for us to have a whole turkey. So, turkey and baking pies.
Do you like the taste of turkey?
I do.
I had a friend who was Italian. Well, he's only half Italian. Then he was a quarter Armenian, part German, part Hungarian. So it doesn't all add up. But let's just say he was half Italian. And, he always said turkey had no flavor, which, I'm basically your Anglo-Celtic person. My mother, who was of Irish descent, when we had spaghetti, it was with Campbell's tomato soup. So, so to me, turkey is just delicious. I am not a foodie.
I love turkey. I'm not really a foodie either.
Turkey has that great habit, too, of just knocking you out after you eat a lot.
Tryptophan.
What? Yeah, you're probably going to have. I know, Eric. You're in Iowa. What you do is you have the 55-gallon drum from the refinery filled with cast-off oil from every fast food joint on the Golden Mile in Iowa City, wherever you are, and you stuff a duck that you shot in the morning into a turkey you shot yesterday inside a small, what do they call a shoat, a small pig, and then you throw it in there with the Twinkies and fire it up for a good Thanksgiving. Isn't that the way
What
it
is
is in
that
Iowa?
called? It's not turducken because if you.
Well, this has got a pig
This is way
too.
past that. Yeah,
This
we've
is
gone way
pork
past
turducken.
turducken.
Is that what you were? What are you going to have?
Well, I have been invited over to my cousin's in-laws' house for their Thanksgiving dinner. So they have traditional food, turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, rolls, and my cousin's mother-in-law, Rita, makes the best pumpkin bars I've ever tasted. So
Pumpkin bar?
definitely have those. And then Rocky and I, Thanksgiving night, my dog, we will each have a sirloin steak.
You mean you're going to have a sirloin steak after your turkey dinner?
Well, I have to have a lunch and a dinner.
Well, that's what the turkey's for. You take some home. You're
Eat
already
the
passed
leftovers.
out with your belt off, and then you have some more, and you pass out again. And
There
then
was
it's-
no cranberry
then it's
sauce.
Friday.
Well, the Patriots play Thanksgiving night.
Are they going to beat
So-
the Jets? Oh, that's a different show.
So I have to be awake for the Patriots game Thursday night.
Well, when are you having your Thanksgiving repast? On Thanksgiving? Or is it one of those Iowa things,
No, we'll have it on Thanksgiving, and I'll take a nap before the Patriots game at 7.
before you have the sirloin steak?
Yeah.
Are you going to cook it out of doors on the pickup truck, on like the Weber grill out in the pickup truck, like you're at the stadium?
No. I will
Shucks.
grill the steaks on my George Foreman grill.
So all this hostility about Iowa, Eric, is based on the fact that I guess that the Democratic Party wants to take both the Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary away. But we've been through that here in New Hampshire every year I can remember, back to like 76, 80. They always wanted to get rid of it. Yeah, when Hugh Gallen was governor, they were trying to take it away. The late Hugh Gallen. It's the only first Democrat.
Why are they trying to take the primary away? I thought everybody had a primary.
Well, no, people would rather, a lot of states would want to be the first primary.
And we're the first primary.
Right,
Or-
we really screwed up last time, Usually, up until Bill Clinton in 92, from 52 through 88, everybody that won president won the New Hampshire primary.
Oh.
Yes. And the New Hampshire primary in 52 sank Truman because Estes Kefauver came in. Because Truman would have been able to run for his own second term, although his popularity was about Nixon's at that time. But, and he'd already done almost 8 years because FDR croaked after a month in office. But then we did in Lyndon Johnson in 68. See, I'm not holding against you for not being a native Granite Stater.
Thank
In
you.
fact, there's some positive things about you not being from the Granite State. Like you have a multisyllabic vocabulary. Hey, how did you develop your multisyllabic vocabulary in Iowa? Is it from going to the movies, Eric?
I would say movies, really just kind of expanding myself outside of traditional forms of media as well. In Iowa, either people watch CNN or Fox News, and I would always look for different ways to get my news, even growing up.
Do they have chapter books out in Iowa?
Yeah, we got those a few years back, John.
Along with the Guffey's Reader, right?
Yeah, well, we had to get rid of the Guppy's Reader. Too many people were taking too long with them from our libraries.
Ooh. Wow, this is just I just think of Iowa in the way I think of the New York Yankees, you know? What would you say to that, Eric?
I think you have already, you have your own opinions of the state of Iowa.
Well, like I said, one of my favorite movies, Some Came Running, Vincent Minnelli, 1958, was actually shot in Iowa. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Shirley MacLaine.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's quite a cast.
And Arthur Kennedy was nominated 5 times for a supporting Oscar. No,
Need to
once as
take
a Best
notes.
Actor and 4 times. But he never quite made it.
Mm.
One of the ironies was his real name was John Kennedy. But this is
He had
before
to change
JFK.
it. Oh.
He's from... He played Biff on Broadway in Death of a Salesman. But we were going to talk about movies, weren't we, Miriam?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with a little thing with Miriam. Can you play the clip Dragnet?
Policewoman Miller brought the female suspect, Camille Gerhardt, from her jail cell to Chief Snoddy's office.
You got a lot of nerve waking me up in the middle of the night like this. These are Los Angeles police officers. They want to ask you a few questions.
It's our duty to inform you that you have the right...
Answer or not answer, get me a lawyer. I know the whole scam. You got a cigarette?
You old enough to smoke?
I'm old enough to do anything, including clam up. I know my rights, Fuzz, and I got a right to not even talk to you. You're wasting your time in my beauty sleep, 'cause I ain't telling you nothing. Not a thing about nothing. Now, how about that cigarette? Let me get back to that flea bag they call a cell. You got nice eyes. For a cop.
And I'll bet your mother had a loud bark.
Miriam, I knew you were a winner as a guest when you said that you watched Dragnet on WeTV?
I guess. I don't know. My
Channel
husband puts it
20
on.
or
Yeah.
whatever it is on
Yeah.
the cable. I don't know.
I don't know.
What gave you a Dragnet fetish?
That was
I
what my
love- I
husband
love
wanted
it.
to watch. I love it. I do. I don't know. It can be very, very funny. It gets
It's so it's
It's
campy.
It really is campy. There was that
It's-
one episode with the woman. She's blind, and somebody robbed her, and she just keeps saying, "I have a stick," and it just that one just made me laugh so much. I don't know. I like them all though.
Well, if you watch the old Dragnets, which are in black and white, they're very gritty and they're really, it ends with like, one of the ones was, Ma's disappeared. We haven't heard from her for 3 months. And they go over, and the guy's, for some reason, a German. That's part of the thing.
Right.
And after a while, it turns out that he killed her, cut her up in the bathtub, and then burned her, because every place in California, Los Angeles, had one of those brick grills.
Right.
And then it ends. he was executed in the lethal gas chamber, and it's like, holy smoke! And you
I need to
watch
go back
the
and watch the old
And you
ones.
watch the '60s one. Basically, Jack Webb came back. It's like he wanted to have this anti-drug message. So the first episode is the famous Blue Boy, where the guy goes crazy on LSD and dies.
Oh,
You must have seen that.
I'm
one.
sure I have.
Oh, I love Blue Boy.
Blue Boy. That's so
It's
much
not the
fun.
same as the one where the kid,
What?
where the parents are like all drugged up and the kid dies in the bathtub.
That's one of the best ones where, remember, the father turns them in because they're smoking marijuana. They're smoking marijuana cigarettes, and they got a 2.5-year-old daughter. And they go over, and there's that kid he's in like the 90 episodes. It's like that was Jill Banner, Marlon Brando's old girlfriend. And she's in like 10 episodes. Everybody's like recycled. And all you have to do is watch like a month, like which would be like 4 episodes, and they're all back, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah, when they finally get the warrant to go in, for the child protection, and I think that pretty in the 60s way with the hair and everything, policewoman that Joe never dates. I think they were going to go over to the Bill Gannon, the Gannons once, but never made it. Because I think that Joe had to shoot somebody or somebody at the laundromat.
Oh, right. I remember that one.
But they go, and then, oh my God, where's little Sally? And then they run in the bathtub, and she's
drowned.
The funny thing is, ironically, like a couple months ago, that actually happened.
Oh, yeah.
Somewhere in America, the tot drowned because
because the parents are a mess.
Yeah, but not on marijuana. They were like on crack, not crack. What's it, meth though? Crystal meth.
Yeah, probably.
So, are you a Dragnet fan, Eric?
Absolutely, I love Dragnet. For me, it's the hard-boiled dialogue that Joe Friday has. It's very John, I love film noir. It's very noirish. So, of course I love it.
The thing is, though, is Joe Friday looks like he's got a stick up his ass all the time. You know how he walks like that?
Dun, dun,
And
dun.
in the 50s, he's thin and he's wiry, so he looks like... But now he's kind of fat because between the two series, he was the head of like one of the Universal Studios for a bit, and they kicked him out. He made a bunch of movies, and he was always associated with jazz, in the 50s and that. He actually, if we only had it, he did a cover of that great Trial in a Little Tenderness.
Huh.
If your woman's weary, try a little tenderness. In that inimitable voice. And it's
Right.
like he's just talking his way through it. And it was on Golden Throats, the first volume. I wish we had it right now.
That's
folks.
hysterical.
But yeah, it's so campy. It's just beyond belief.
And they always do things to have Bill aggravating him.
Right.
You need to eat this. You need to eat that. You
Right,
Need
he
to,
has the
you should
sandwiches.
you should settle down. Have you ever done this? He's always sort of criticizing Joe's life, and Joe is just not into it.
Right.
Needling him.
He started out his career and Harry Morgan. He actually started out his career as Henry Morgan because it was a Harry Morgan on the radio. And he was a bad guy in Westerns. And he used to be with Jack Elam. Remember him with the funny...
The eyes going into...
And
one
they
going
would
this
be...
way, only-
Occasionally they'd be partnered up. They must have been at the same studio. And then he had a comedy show that I don't remember called Phyllis and somebody. My sister told me about it. And then he went into this. But of course, most people are going to remember him for being MASH, for Colonel Henry Potter, which was... It's such a completely different character. But he's played all sorts of characters through his career. He was one of those character actors that was always in demand. But I couldn't stand MASH after a few years because I consider myself like a Mike Dukakis, John Kerry liberal, folks, but I can't stand earnest liberalism. It must be, some type of Catholic overhang of self-criticism or self-hatred, even though I'm not a Catholic.
Mm.
I'm an environmental Catholic. If you think about something, you've done it.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, I actually thought about watching Friends once, and so now I'm tainted forever.
Forever.
There's a saying.
Did I watch a full episode? I don't think I ever watched.
Oh, I
think
only watched about the first few minutes of a Friends episode. The beginning, it was I was a Seinfeld fan. They say you're either one or the other.
Oh, okay. I didn't watch either. I didn't really watch either one that much. I watched Friends for one episode that has Penn from Penn and Teller in it because I'm a big Penn and Teller fan. And
see, all these riches we found out about Miriam. Did you see Penn and Teller get killed?
Oh gosh, yes.
You know
Oh
who
my
directed
gosh.
that? Arthur Penn directed that.
Yeah,
That's the
I
last
know.
film he ever directed.
Yeah, I have that.
Is
I have
it
that
any-
on
is it good?
DVD at home.
I have their series.
I like it. I mean,
Yeah,
not
it's
everybody's
big
gonna like
balls.
it. But it's funny. Everybody dies at the end.
All right,
you know.
I have their series called. We can't say what the title is. Bull.
Oh yeah.
Bull.
They've done a couple of other specials. They did one that was called "You Can't Do This at Home," and I forget.
Well, I
the
like,
names.
I'm not saying that we're relying politically, but I like Penn Jillette and that the skepticism,
Yeah, I do too. I'm not.
A lot of
I'm not.
yeah.
He's a libertarian. I'm not a libertarian.
Right, I'm not a libertarian. He's
But the
even gone back
skepticism
a
I
little.
like.
But the skepticism,
I like
about
that.
stuff. So, Eric, what are we going to talk about next? We've talked about. We didn't talk. That first clip was from Woody Allen's Bananas. Miriam, when did you first see a Woody Allen film?
I was 13.
You shouldn't cross your arms because that is telling the audience that
Okay.
you're cutting them off. You should be open.
Okay.
Flow. That's why I always use my hands. You can do like an interpretive thing. There you
I never
go.
know what to do with my hands, so that's why.
Most
I'll
actors
just do
don't.
an interpretive dance the whole time. It'll be very distracting.
Right, but actors, you see some actors don't know how to hold their hands, but
Yeah, I don't.
You
Well,
can
and
do Marlon
I
Brando.
have to sort of keep myself too from tapping the table and stuff because I get.
Okay. When was I asked you, would you be offended if we had a Woody Allen clip? Because
No.
he's been lynched socially. What was that? It sounded like a emptying drain pipe there in Iowa. Are you having another hurricane? Or they have tornadoes, right?
They do have tornadoes.
We have tornadoes, but it's past tornado season. I don't know what that is. I do live in an apartment, so it could have been my neighbor above me.
Well, that's true, it's true. But you were going to tell us when you saw your first Woody Allen film.
I was 13, so 1975. And it was a double feature with Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And
Yep, we had that
I
at the
came away
drive-in.
from that feeling like, what did I just watch? It was Woody Allen's Take the Money and Run.
That was Take the Money and Run. Yeah, it got released. I remember I was what had I been, a sophomore in high school, 75, or going to junior year. That was a big film with us, Monty Python.
I was in middle school.
But they tried to release the Monty Python show on commercial TV, and it just flopped.
Didn't, yeah.
But then they put it on PBS, and it was a big hit for PBS, and I was just fascinated by that.
I
But the
watched
movie
it
was quite
endlessly,
different.
yes.
But my first Woody Allen movie I saw was Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex, but were afraid to ask, which came out in 1972. And my father came visiting, and he took me to it. My brother didn't want to see it. And it was R-rated, and we went in, and I remember watching it, and my father, big Woody Allen fan, he's laughing. And I got a lot of the jokes because my father, as part of our sex education, gave us a year's worth of Playboys, my brother and I think from 72 to early 73 or whatever. And things I thought I knew about, later on I realized I didn't. It's like the one, what is sodomy? You have Gene Wilder and the sheep. I don't know. It's 1972, late 72.
I like the one with the giant breasts.
And
these things always come in pairs.
We can't talk about that, right? And then there was what's a transvestite with Lou Jacoby of all people? Remember?
Oh, why don't I remember?
He was that Jewish American character actor
right.
that always looked. I think he's in the Diary of Anne Frank,
I remember.
but he's in all sorts of things. He was
Right.
very popular. they go over to see their prospective in-laws, and he says, I have to go to the bathroom, and then he sneaks up to
and he gets into the closet.
He goes into their bedroom, and he starts putting on the wife's coat.
And
he was such a homely-looking guy. And then remember, he falls out the window.
Oh, right.
Oh, yeah, folks, you know, you just have to laugh along with us. But I remember years later, I'm at BU, and I took my girlfriend to see that. She had just come from Israel. She was a conscientious objector, so to stay out of the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, she came to. And she was a very ardent feminist at the time. She didn't quite know what to think about that movie. But, yeah. So, but my father always took us to R-rated movies, you know. Yeah, Dirty Harry movies. There wasn't, you know, that was pretty straightforward.
Mostly violence.
Yeah.
Well, they were funny, though.
Dirty Harry?
There were funny moments in it.
The first Dirty Harry film is a classic, but that's because it's directed by Don Siegel. Mm. And you know, the irony, Eric, was Don Siegel was always considered a liberal filmmaker. He had made the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but everybody was, you know, Pauline Kael, the famous critic, said, "Oh, this is a fascist film."
He also directed The Killers.
Right, which was a TV movie, but it was too violent. That was Ronald Reagan's last role as an actor. It was too violent, so they released it into the theater. What?
I love his version of The Killers. I think it's brilliant.
Well, nobody's actually made a movie of the actual Killers, the short story by Hemingway. They just take the title and just one
make whatever
thread.
They want, right?
Oh, but the original Killers that introduced Burt Lancaster in '46 is a masterpiece, and that wasn't her first movie. Ava Gardner, when she was young, what a beauty, but she got done in by alcoholism.
The 1946 version is really good as well. I just like the Don Siegel version.
Yeah. And but in the 46 version, you have William Conrad as one of the killers, who was Cannon. Oh, see, you know what? I was sitting in the kitchen, and my sister was watching TV. It was like, and I heard, and I'm listening. It says, "I bet she's watching Quincy." And sure enough, she was. And I didn't even hear Jack Klugman. It's just the way you're so used to these shows that you grew up with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we watched every one of those, I'm sure.
Well,
it's been a long time, so I don't even remember. I remember one. There's one episode I remember where somebody got bubonic plague. That's the only one I remember. Somebody's out in the desert and they got bubonic plague.
One of the good things about old TV is when I was a kid, I'd see all the familiar actors, and it used to really irritate me. But now I'm an old fart. I see them and I actually know who they are, and it's like comforting.
Yeah, I get it. I get that.
It's like, oh my God, the physician that killed the baby with the forceps, and Quincy's racing against time to get a restraining order. That's John Denner. If you know who John Denner is.
I don't.
He was in, if you saw him, you'd know him. But we only have a half hour. You know, I brought in the Woody Allen about satire. Satire is something that closes in Dubuque on a Thursday. You know, plays open on a Thursday. And so a satire will close. The famous George S. Kaufman, who won a couple Pulitzer Prizes, said that. Do you want to talk? You did a excellent review of Stanley Kubrick's film. Do you want to talk talk about the movie that you reviewed?
Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Excellent piece of satire. I would probably have to agree with Roger Ebert.
I have two clips.
And when he said that he thinks it's the best piece of political satire ever done on film, I certainly think it is.
I'd agree. Hey, can we show the first clip of Dr. Strangelove, which we'll later have to cut out for the YouTube video? Everybody should be watching that.
I'm Prince Irons. Ask you for the key and the recall code. Have you got them handy, sir?
I told you to take it easy, Group Captain. There's nothing anybody can do about this thing now. I'm the only person who knows the three-letter code group.
Then I must insist, sir, that you give them to me. Do I take it, sir, that you are threatening a brother officer with a gun?
Mandrake, I suppose it never occurred to you that while we're chatting here so enjoyably, a decision is being made by the President and the Joint Chiefs in the war room at the Pentagon. And when they realize there is no possibility of recalling the wing, there will be only one course of action open. Total commitment. Mandrake, do you recall what Clemenceau once said about war?
No, I didn't think I do, sir, no.
He said war was too important to be left to the generals. When he said that, 50 years ago, he might have been right. But today, war is too important to be left to politicians. They have neither the time, the training, nor the inclination for strategic thought. I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, communist subversion, and the international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.
Eric, I grew up, I was born in late 59, and I was pretty conscious since, I think since my 4th birthday in late 1963. My sister says anybody can find your birthday online.
Oh,
What?
Eric is frozen.
Eric froze.
Eric, you froze. What do we do? I X him out?
Let me take care of it. Don't touch it.
Okay.
Keep talking.
And I wanted to say, Eric, there were actually people talking about that stuff, how fluoride was going to destroy America, like the John Birches and that. It's not so much that it was going to poison you, it was just the government was overreaching to fluoride, go into your water.
And fluoride.
Now that I'm older, I think they have a point. But when I was young, it was true. Uh-oh. It sounds like, do you ever see the movie Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea? And
That's exactly what it sounds like.
Admiral
Here it comes.
Nelson. I guess in Iowa the telecommunications failed, folks. That tornado must have been terrible. It already reduced Iowa City into that shanty town back. Unlike our isn't that a beautiful photo?
It is.
It makes New Hampshire, well, to me, Manchester is New Hampshire. And Bedford is, to me, because my Aunt Kay lived in Bedford. They're like an appendage. It's like the appendix. Or if you wanted to use Bedford, we could use this is the broad bottom of Bedford, which probably is more true. But I guess this show is going a little awry, but that's part of the fun. I only wish Norm the psychic was still here to barge
He
in.
could have told us that this was going to happen with the.
Were you ever
the
here
Skype.
when Norm barged in?
No, I don't know. I didn't know Norm.
You didn't know Norm's the psychic?
No.
General Baltic
when
was
did
on the show
he
3
pass
times.
away? How long's it been?
Earlier this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was a sad thing. I actually cried about,
Yeah.
being such machismo. I can say these things. I had tears in my eyes when I heard the Norm. Even now.
Oh.
Although I'm having trouble with this eye.
Oh no.
Yeah.
So I can't get Manchester television, so.
So it
I
is
have to
your
watch things on YouTube.
That's right. Yeah, I was remiss in putting the show out there because I couldn't find it on my hard drive.
Oh.
For some reason, I'd already edited it, and I didn't realize that, so I edited it again, and the original file disappeared.
Oh no.
So, what do you think of Dr. Strangelove? Since Eric
It's
has abandoned us.
Incredibly funny. And it makes a lot of good points. It's scary because it really should. If people aren't frightened by it, they should be. Because it just seems. I mean, it just seems like it's so true.
at the time it came out, it was denounced by many critics, including Bosley Crothers of the New York Times, who had become an old fart. He'd been there since the 40s. And after he canned Bonnie and Clyde and all the films of 6, 7, they finally got rid of him. But he said, that these people thought it was an immoral film because we needed a nuclear deterrent to stop the Soviet Union and communism from taking over everything. So that this would make fun of the idea of the nuclear deterrent was un-American.
And I don't think it does make fun of it
and
necessarily.
Dangerous.
But I mean...
Well, it
does,
It shows the absurdity of it. Well, at the same time, Failsafe came out. And Failsafe is the same story where it's about a nuclear attack on the Soviet Union from the Americans that can't be deterred because something goes wrong.
Right. So it's basically the same story but without the humor.
Right. And Kubrick actually sued the Failsafe people because the original novel is called Code Red. And it's serious, just like Failsafe. I'm sure a lot of people, those are the two films you watch. And even though Sidney Lumet is a great director too, not in the class of Kubrick, who's an auteur, one of the great ones.
Right.
It's just not as good a film, but it's straight. It's got Henry Fonda as the president. I mean, how much better can you get than that as a presidential casting?
True.
But he was going to make this as a straight film. Then he realized how absurd it was. Daniel Ellsberg was at Harvard with Henry Kissinger. And people used to think that Henry Kissinger influenced Strangelove, but that's not true. But they both were at Harvard researching nuclear war strategies, how nuclear war could be ineffective, because it's supposed to be a deterrent. You're not supposed to go to nuclear war, but there's different strategies to use it. So you can threaten nuclear war. You can bluff nuclear war. In 1973, Nixon took the military up to the defense posture just before all-out nuclear war over the rumors that the Soviet Union was going to put an airborne division into the Sinai to stop the Israel in the 73 war. And that was serious. And he also, now that it's declassified, during the when Bangladesh, which was East Pakistan, broke away from India, and they had that horrible massacre. The Pakistanis from West Pakistan, which is a great ally in the United States, because we didn't like India because they were non-aligned and they were too friendly to Russia. They were massacring, they're murdering all the intellectuals. Same thing that happened years later in Biafra. Well, they were actually happening at the same time. Nixon took us up to that defense posture again, even though the Soviet Union really had no real interest in it. But Nixon, I guess, told one of his Kissinger that he wanted the Russians to think that he was insane, that he might actually push the button. Yeah. And so that is why Dr. Strangelove is relevant. Well, it's relevant because nobody's talking about nuclear war. We're closer to nuclear war than any time since the year you were born.
Yeah.
I don't remember the missiles of October, Cuba.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
But,
I think that's before me.
But when I was studying all this back in the 80s, you would never have thought of having anything to do with Ukraine, because Ukraine was such an essential part of the Soviet Union. It had been part of the Russian Empire for over 500 years, But the idea of screwing with, having anything to do with Ukraine, that would be grounds for a nuclear war. But, so that's something to think. But people don't want to talk about that.
No.
Because Matt Condon says, it's not going to happen.
I hope he's right.
Well, it's been a long time. Back in this movie was made in 1963. It was only 18 years Hiroshima was bombed. But nobody's used nuclear weapons since.
That's good.
Yeah, but see, we're not being in the movies anymore. It says Harry Truman said he didn't use them in Korea because he wanted to stop the war. But Okay, we'll go back if we ever get Eric back. But Harry Truman said, Japan was on the ropes, but they were fighting to the death. So you drop the bombs. They drop one bomb, they're still not surrendering. Then they drop another bomb, then they take another 5 days to surrender. But said it wouldn't have happened in Korea. But you see, then there's tactical nukes. How do you, there's volumes and volumes and volumes of research. And Henry Kissinger and Daniel Ellsberg, who's famous for the Pentagon Papers, because he worked for the Rand Corporation afterwards. If you're of a certain generation, the Rand Corporation was like the SS, during the Vietnam War, because they did all the research into the war. As Daniel Ellsberg said, in 1967, the Secretary of Defense, Robert McNamara, after going in Saigon, told him the war was lost already. But they were still saying to the press that the war was won. So that's when the Viet Cong launched the Tet Offensive in the end of January of 1968. When they were telling the war was won, well, they know it's lost. The Viet Cong got right into breach the U.S. Embassy. I mean, it was a strategic and tactical defeat for them, but psychologically it was a blow to the United States, because you have Walter Cronkite, who was the #1 newsman, saying that we'd been lied to. That they had been lying to us all along. I was reading, this is what Matt says, never taking a breath. If you want to say something, just tell me to shut up.
I'm just listening. I'm trying to learn, because I don't know all of these things.
But General Wesley Clark, I was reading his book. He was the Supreme Allied Commander. We were in Serbia, Kosovo, and that, which I had family members in that. Said you always have to project that you're winning, or you will lose the public and political backing for the war you have to do. So
there really wasn't much choice for them to.
Well, you notice in Ukraine every week the Ukrainians are winning and Russia's close to collapsing. Then Russia's not, and they need more money. And then it's like if you read 1984, they're always at war with West Asia or Eurasia, but they flip around. And they're always ready to be defeated. And then suddenly they have this massive victory. But Orwell was just talking about what's propaganda. Propaganda is a word that got a very negative connotation after World War II because of Hitler and Goebbels. Right. Propaganda is just, a type of communications, hey, hooray for our side. Vote for me. It's propaganda. It's
all propaganda, yeah.
But the first casualty of any war is the truth. That's a maxim. So everybody wonders why I'm so cynical about Ukraine. Hey, I remember the wonderful South Vietnamese. Hey,
he's back.
You're back. I guess we're back to Ward 13 Goes to the Movies. I just took a little digression into history. Let's watch. We could have watched the second clip. Let's watch the second clip of
Mandrake.
Yes, Jack?
Have you ever seen a commie drink a glass of water?
Well, yeah, I can't say I have, Jack.
Vodka. That's what they drink, isn't it? Never water?
Well, I believe that's what they drink, Jack, yes.
On no account will a commie ever drink water, and not without good reason.
Oh, yes. I can't quite see what you're getting at, Jack.
Water. That's what I'm getting at, water. Mandrake, water is the source of all life. 7/10 of this Earth's surface is water. Why, do you realize that 70% of you is water?
Oh, Lord.
And as human beings, you and I need fresh, pure water to replenish our precious bodily fluids.
Yes.
Are you beginning to understand?
Yes.
Mandrake. Mandrake, have you never wondered why I drink only distilled water or rainwater and only pure grain alcohol?
Well, it did occur to me, Jack, yes.
Have you ever heard of a thing called fluoridation? Fluoridation of water?
Yes, I have heard of that, Jack, yes. Yes.
Well, do you know what it is?
No, I don't know what it is now.
Do you realize that fluoridation is the most monstrously conceived and dangerous communist plot we have ever had to face?
Talking to Eric, Stanley Kubrick, and I was saying to Miriam, it was called Code Red, and it was a serious thing like Failsafe. And the people he later and Kubrick, they sued the people that wrote Failsafe in the movie for plagiarism, and it was straight. But as I was talking to you, there's all these strategies about how to, like, if not win a nuclear war, use nuclear arms. Like, they talk about Putin can use tactical nukes and all that. And they actually, like I said, there's just reams of stuff about this. And I guess Kubrick, didn't he read like something like a god-awful amount of books on nuclear gamesmanship?
Yes, he did. He really wanted to focus on
Napoleon's a movie. There's like 200 books, man. Oh. I thought we were. I thought our mic was off. This is a successful. We're going to edit this one down to about 30 minutes. The joys of community television. Are you through with what you were going to say?
I was just going to add that Kubrick really wanted to make the nuclear part of this film as accurate as he could.
Oh, yeah. But he, after reading about nuclear gamesmanship, because there's the Ellsberg paradox, it has to do with marbles, and Kissinger was part of that too, of how to use nuclear weapons as a diplomatic tool and how to adapt your diplomacy to nuclear war. He said this is just utterly absurd. And then he based George C. Scott's character. That's General Turgidson, right?
Oh, he's great.
All the names are turgid,
right?
Which kind of sexual. And then, of course, the president. Peter Sellers plays three roles. Muffley Merkin.
Muffley.
Yeah. Merkin.
Doesn't sound very powerful.
Well, the Merkin
president.
is actually a piece of like a toupee for the pubic region. If you lost your pubic hair to like scarlet fever or something. Or, during the Burt Reynolds period, you get a Merkin and put it on your chest. But,
somebody just posted a thing on Facebook about Merkins. It was an ad.
Was that me?
Was that you?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Me.
Somebody did.
Well, we always
I knew what it was.
Matt Connaughton is very hirsute, which means hairy, and he had a going business with the, selling Merkins made from his own bodily hair. That's when you're a Yeti, you can get away with these things, Just don't call him a Sasquatch. Eric, any more remarks about Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove? And you could tell the audience where they could find your review.
All right. Interestingly enough, Peter Sellers was actually supposed to play the Slim Pickens role as well. He was supposed to do 4 roles in the movie.
Yes, we already talked about that off camera. We might have talked about it on camera. I think we talked about it on camera while the tornado took you away, Dorothy.
Slim Pickens was great, though. I'm glad that he was in that.
Well, James Earl Jones and George C. Scott were hired because George C. Scott was playing the Merchant of Venice, and he saw James Earl Jones, who later became a great actor himself, honorary Oscar winner, and James Earl Jones came from a theatrical family, African American. His father was an actor who appears famously in The Sting, who's Robert Redford's mentor in the movie. And when he met Slim Pickens, he thought this was his character, and he asked somebody, when does he break character? He says, no, that's him.
That's just him. Yeah.
You know, there's a
And
room.
he's that character in every movie he
Oh,
was
yeah.
in. You know,
Yeah.
He was in Blazing Saddles, and it was exactly the same thing.
Oh, yeah, but he was completely reliable for that. He's great in Blazing Saddles. But he had been in Marlon Brando's only directorial movie, One-Eyed Jacks. So everybody, the generation of actors after Brando, Brando was like God to them. So he asked Slim Pickens, what was Marlon Brando like? And he said, well, I'll tell you, Buddy is white to me. And then, what did he say? That he's white to you? But that's a deep Southernism, He's white to me. He's good.
He's good.
Being a white man,
Right.
And he says, this is a guy, he was a Texas rodeo cowboy. He and Ben Johnson, who won an Oscar for The Last Picture Show, they were so good with horses, they're invaluable, that, Slim Pickens, when you watch him, his first scene, when he comes into the scene in Blazing Saddles, he can stop that horse on a dime into a tight shot, so you don't blow the shot, And they were great horsemen that they realized, these guys are, like natural characters. Because Sam Peckinpah used Slim Pickens a lot, didn't he, Eric?
Yes, he did. Sam Peckinpah used him very frequently. I'm trying to think how many movies he was in.
Oh, him and L.Q. Jones. He's in most of the Westerns. I just think we should do a review. One of my favorite movies is Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. One
of my favorite Westerns, as well as Peckinpah films, I don't know if you'd call it a Western per se. I do, certainly, is Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia.
Oh, that's one of my brother's favorite movies. He says, how can you not love a movie where a guy is talking to a severed head in the passenger side seat of his car? and really.
Okay, I need to see this one.
And
it's
I haven't seen
brilliant.
What did you say?
It's brilliant. It's such an amazing film, and it encompasses so many different genres.
I'm gonna watch a few before.
And Warren Oates is great. You know what? Warren Oates is imitating Sam Peckinpah, they say.
I did not know that.
Yeah. And that's another character actor that he loved. Was although he's not in that many movies, was Gig Young, who was Elizabeth Montgomery's first husband, a terrible alcoholic who later killed himself and his wife.
Oh my!
But Gig Young was supposed to had the role in Blazing Saddles, played by of the kid, played by Gene Wilder. But he had the DTs the first day on the set, so they had to fire him. And then Gene Wilder says, what about me? And memorably cast in there. But somebody like a Slim Pickens and Ben Johnson, they were just like cowboys. But then like John Ford liked Ben Johnson. And eventually then you got the late Peter Bogdanovich, put him in a role and he won an Oscar. But we're running out of time, Eric. We're not going to get to talk about Casino any. Miriam, why don't you tell us what's going on in Miriam's world?
Working, mostly. I don't know.
You're working for that satanic school system that's promoting the castration of young children.
No, thank you. I'm working for a school, yes. I work with kids who need extra support. That's pretty much what I do.
Is that a fulfilling job?
It is. I love it. Whenever a kid makes any kind of progress at all, I think it's really exciting. And I don't know, they seem to need some things that I just really know how to do. I mean, like there's computer stuff that I'm having to do. Normally it's done maybe by a speech language pathologist, but I figured out how to program a thing, and I mean, it's all kinds of stuff.
So these are children with disabilities.
Yes.
And then they get they're written. I'm saying written up. That's an Army term. But you develop a plan of how to help them with the disabilities,
Right.
so they can they cope with the disability and they learn. They can learn.
Right. IEP.
And
It's a
right.
individualized education program.
That would be something interesting to talk about in the future.
Yeah, that's true. I've been on both sides of the table with that. I've worked with kids who have IEPs. My son had an IEP.
Yeah.
So, I'm not great with them, but I kind of have a sense of.
Well, it's very frustrating to a lot of parents that really don't know about it, and many are just when you find out your child does have a disability, because there's so many types of disability. Like, I found out, they didn't find out till I was at Defense Language Institute I was dyslexic, which,
Trying to figure out what to do once you figure out what the disability is.
Right.
And sometimes, they're not sure what it is, and maybe it's more than one thing.
Is there, since we're still Ward 13 goes to the movies, do any of your kids use movie therapy?
No.
There was a PhD psychologist that came up with movie therapy, and I actually have a book by him that has nothing to do with the movie therapy, but I think he was the only movie therapist. Eric, have you used the movies as therapy?
I've never heard of it.
I'll have to find
It's never been prescribed, but I do quite a bit. As someone who does suffer from depression and anxiety, if I just need to get away.
Eric, it was nice to have you on. We're back. Oh, you're back. Now we have to go back to Ward. We're shifting between Ward 13 and the normal Ward 13. I think I'm going to call the show Justing Pilot the next time you come.
Say that again?
Justing Pilot.
Justing Pilot?
Oh, yes. That's a book by Aldous Huxley, by the way.
Oh, okay.
What is truth? A jesting pilot asked, but didn't stay for the answer. That's from On Truth by Francis Bacon. We got into a lot of trouble in Elizabeth I's court. The first Elizabeth I.
Right.
Yeah. Any last words, Eric, before you get sucked into a water spout?
I'm sorry, everyone, for the tech difficulties today.
Well, that's why they created the editing suite on Apple, and it's free too. Well, don't scald yourself when you're putting that, the pork turducken into the 55-gallon drum.
Pig ducking.
I'll try
It's
that,
a pig ducking.
John.
You'll see Miriam and I are going on the Matt Connaughton show, where I vowed to take an oath of silence. And I'm taking bets on that.
Does it mean I'm going to be forced to speak?
Eric, we will be doing a show soon about the sports betting and the lobbyists that are pushing it at universities. And I'm sure they're pushing it in the state of Iowa right now, like they did it in Kansas. It's a shocking.
For now, it's legal.
It's legal now in Iowa?
Yeah, it's been legal for the last near 2 years.
Good God.
Wow.
We're still. I think we should go to Ward 13. Goes
I take
wild.
advantage every Saturday.
You are a bettor?
Yes.
Would Christ put a bet on the Patriots? You really got to think about that one. Well, Eric, it was wonderful to have you. We'll see you soon.
Nice to see you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, and have a happy Thanksgiving. And folks, it's what'd you say?
Both of you as well.
Oh, okay. I don't
Thank
celebrate.
you.
I don't celebrate Thanksgiving. My forefathers came here. We were Indian fighters and stuff. So I'm doing penance.
Yeah.
That and the fact nobody invited me to anything. I'd have to go to Vermont if I, she's a vegetarian, and they really haven't improved vegetarian turkeys. Hey, folks, we will see you next week. God knows what we're going to talk about. Adios.